Have you ever looked at your paycheck and felt like you're trying to read a secret code? You see that big number you earned, then there's this whole list of weird deductions, and finally, the much smaller number that actually hits your bank account. Well, today, we are cracking that code. We are going to go line by line through your pay stub so you know exactly where every single dollar is going.
Okay, let's be honest. When that direct deposit notification pops up on your phone, what do? Most of us, we just glance at one thing, the final amount, right? But all those lines of text above that number, they tell a really critical story. And ignoring it could mean you're missing payroll errors or incorrect deductions that can cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year.
And here's why this is so important. The American Payroll Association found that a third of all U.S. businesses make payroll errors. A third. That is a huge number. And look, these mistakes can be big or small, but you can't catch an error if you don't even know what you're looking for. So, understanding your pay stub, that's your first and absolute best line of defense.
So here's our game plan. We're going to follow your money on its journey. We just covered the pay stub blind spot, why so many of us ignore the details. Next, we'll start at the very top with your earnings. Then we'll dive into the taxes that are mandatory. After that, we'll look at the deductions you actually get to choose. And we'll wrap it all up with a super simple checklist to keep your paycheck healthy.
Think of it like a road trip for your money. We're starting at the beginning, your gross pay, and following it all the way to its final destination, your net pay, with a few really important stops along the way.
All right, first stop, we're at the top of the pay stub. This is the starting line, where you see the biggest number, your total compensation, before a single penny is taken out.
And that big number is called your gross pay. It's everything you earned for that pay period. So let's say your annual salary is $60,000 and you get paid every 2 weeks. Well, you just divide $60,000 by 26 pay periods, and that gives you a gross pay of $2,307.69.
Now, if you're an hourly employee, this part's going to look a little different for you. You'll actually see your pay rate, the number of regular hours you worked, and any overtime you might have put in. And hey, quick reminder, federal law says that overtime has to be paid at least time and a half for any hours you work over 40 in a week.
You're also going to see this little acronym everywhere, YTD. That just stands for year to date. It's a running total for the entire calendar year, and it is super helpful for tracking things like how close you are to your 401k contribution limit or when you might hit the income cap for certain taxes. Okay, we've got our gross pay. Now, for the next stop on our journey, this is where your paycheck starts to shrink a little bit. We're talking about taxes, the mandatory deductions. The first big one is federal income tax. This is the money your employer sends to the IRS for you. And how much they send? Well, that's based on what you put on your W-4 form. The one you filled out when you started your job. The more allowances you claim, the less tax comes out of each check. But you might owe money come April. Fewer allowances means less take-home pay now, but you're more likely to get a refund.
All right, next up for most of us is state income tax. But if you happen to live in one of these 9 states you see here, Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, or Wyoming, you get to skip this part. You won't have this deduction at all. Pretty nice, huh? Okay, next is a really important one, FICA taxes. Now, FICA is actually 2 different taxes rolled into one. First, you've got Social Security. That's 6.2% of your income, but only up to a certain amount each year. For 2024, that limit is $168,600. Once your income goes past that, you stop paying it for the year. For high earners, it feels like a nice little raise in the fall. The second part is Medicare, and that's 1.45% of all your earnings with no income limit.
So, we've covered the taxes you have to pay. Let's move on to the fun part, the section of your pay stub that's all about your choices. This is the money you've decided to have taken out for things like benefits and savings.
And here is where you find the secret weapon of smart saving, pre-tax deductions. It's a game changer. Here's how it works. The money comes out of your paycheck before the government calculates how much tax you owe. So what does that do? It lowers your total taxable income, which means you end up paying less in taxes. It's one of the easiest ways to keep more of your own money.
So what are these amazing pre-tax deductions? Well, the most common ones are things like your 401k retirement contributions, your share of your health insurance premium, and any money you put into an HSA or FSA. You might also see deductions for dental, vision, or life insurance. Go ahead and grab your own pay stub. What choices are you making?
We've made it to the final leg of the journey. We started with gross pay, we've subtracted all the mandatory and voluntary deductions, and now it's time to get to the bottom line and make sure it all adds up correctly.
And that bottom line is your net pay. This is the number we were all looking for at the beginning. It's called take-home pay because that's literally what it is. It's what's left for you to take home after everyone else has taken their piece. This is the final amount that lands in your bank account.
So, from now on, every single time you get paid, I want you to do this quick 2-minute check. First, is your gross pay right? Does it match your salary or the hours you clocked? Second, are your 401k and HSA contributions coming out at the right percentage? Third, do your benefits deductions line up with what you signed up for during open enrollment? And finally, and this one's a big one, if your employer offers a 401k match, log into your retirement account and make sure their contribution is actually there. It's a simple habit that can save you a world of trouble.
Now, before we go, just a quick heads up. All this info is for educational purposes to help you get comfortable with your pay stub. It is not professional financial or payroll advice. If you have specific questions about your own situation, please talk to a qualified professional.
And there you have it. You are now officially equipped to read the whole story your paycheck is telling you every couple of weeks. You know what gross pay and net pay are, you know how your W-4 works, and you know the power of pre-tax savings. You are in the driver's seat. So the only question I have for you is this. Now that you know exactly what to look for, what are you going to find in your next paycheck?